You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 46 of Storyteller Conclave. This is a show all about helping you run the best tabletop role-playing game that you can. Whether you're a new storyteller or dungeon master learning the craft, or an experienced storyteller that's looking to take your game up to the next level, I am Sarah.
And I'm Rob.
How we doing, Rob?
Better, I think, now.
Yeah,
I mean,
a little bit.
now our listeners can hear us. We're recording. So for those of you who are coming from our last episode to this episode, we had a minor technical difficulty in the other studio, so we've moved studios. So we started a little later on our live show. Not too much later, but
Not too much later.
We're doing okay.
I'll tell you, Rocky Start seems to be the order of the hour.
No
just
joke.
In general, man.
Yeah.
It's been a weird week, I think, globally for everybody. And
Oh, God. Even just since last Wednesday.
yeah.
All this happened so fast, and you don't even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who are listening to this totally out of order, maybe some point in the future, we're talking to you. So at this point in the past, we are going to identify this as the time when we were in quarantine. Yeah,
This is the quarantine episode.
We were originally going to do an episode about contemporary games and talking about either playing in contemporary times and playing as yourself or things like that. And we decided we had to switch that because a lot of our listeners in the Discord were talking about the current virus.
Yeah.
And some of the changes that are happening, some of the governmental and national and world views on what you should and should not do, and social distancing and how to handle those kind of things. So
I think when things started shutting down, when they were starting okay, no more restaurants, sitting in, you can do takeout, but that's it,
apparently they really wanted us to end our episode early. This is it's just the way today goes.
It really is.
So, but yeah.
But when they started doing that, and of course, even my work, and I work in one of those offices that kind of has an ongoing service that we provide, a 24/7 service, and I'll tell you, we don't shut down for anything.
No,
we're talking about blizzards. Governor has declared a state of emergency in the state of Michigan.
Get your ass into the office.
Yeah, it's please take extra care on your way into the office. Is the email we get?
But at the same time, a lot of the things that your company does is servicing those people who are out in that. Mm-hmm. It's no different than police and fire and medical. You've got to be there for them.
Sure, but keeping that in mind, though, and it was a little jarring for me. And I've been with the company for 10 years. Yeah, and it was a little jarring for me for them to start okay, no, we really need to start sending people home. We really need to start working out some policies for how to deal with massive absences. Our attendance policy has been suspended. Right now. We don't care if you're out sick. That's fine. You're not going to get any attendance points over it. That's cool. Stay home.
Yeah, don't bring that crap in.
And and then for the first time ever, I've gotten to work from home.
Which is crazy.
I brought my computer home today, and it's weird for me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I work from home, so I'm kind of used to this. But just seeing the uptick on what's going on with my office, and we've got we're pushing over 10,000 employees in ours.
Yeah.
All over the United States, and the biggest thing with our company is we're tracking where everybody is, what's going on in those areas, how to best handle those. A lot of us are work remote, but we have huge install teams.
Yeah.
That we have our own jets to fly those teams out, and we've had to pull people out. We've had to, make sure that when people are going in, we're handling that separately. We've got to follow certain regulations, and we have to be very careful. And some of our installs just got canceled or pushed off because they just don't have the personnel to do it.
Yeah,
and that's huge.
Yeah.
It's going to cause a ridiculous backlog. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that's going to come out of this that a lot of people are just, it's risks that nobody thought were going to hit.
Yeah, I mean, our entire lives have just been turned upside down right now in a lot of aspects.
But we'll get over it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get over it. We'll get over it. But it's a weird time right now, you know. And I know that's kind of affected our gaming groups
very much.
To kind of bring it around to topic,
very much so.
Is we've got a couple different games that we're in. We're my game, your game. My boyfriend's running actually 2 different games.
Yeah. A couple of our
the Mad Elf is running his Mouse Guard game. So, we're having to have some real discussions now of like, do we feel safe gathering 5 people together in the same house,
Right.
And
and it's not even those people. And I think that's the biggest concern that I have is that a lot of people are like, yeah, it's fine. We all know each other. We're all healthy.
Right.
We know our families, but it's who you're making contact with.
Yeah.
That's where it gets really iffy.
So we wanted to start kind of our discussion with a little bit of real talk about what actually is going on right now and how it does kind of affect your gaming group like this.
Yeah.
Because we were thinking, any outlet that people are listening to, we want to use to get some good facts out there. About how things work, how the whole COVID-19 thing is going on. Now, keeping in mind that there's a 5 to 10 day incubation period for this virus, and you are contagious that entire time. Now, what that means, for those of you who don't understand how incubation periods work, is essentially the virus is alive and well and acting, but you're not going to show any symptoms for 5 to 10 days.
Right.
You will feel healthy. You will appear healthy. Mm-hmm. You will continue to function like a regular human being, and you will be spreading the virus that entire time. And that's one of the reasons why this whole thing's being taken so seriously, because you don't have to be coughing and sneezing and running a fever to be able to infect other people.
Right. And that's the big concern, is that in infecting someone else, it is a simple activity, and it can infect animals as well. Mm-hmm. So you go to your friend's house and you make sure you don't touch them, you keep a distance from them, and you're careful about everything else. It doesn't mean that you're not leaving something.
Yep.
That is then getting picked back up again.
Yep.
And that's scary. That's scary for not those people, but also the people they're in contact with.
It is, because it's invisible and it's weird.
And
there's
not enough people to care about, or to be able to take care of everyone. And there's not enough beds to cover all the people who have respiratory issues. Everything from light asthma all the way to people who are like my grandfather before he passed only had one lung.
Yep.
Like
the immunocompromised.
Yeah. So think, if you're seriously considering to get together with a group of people, be careful about your considerations, even if it's just for the next month. Just take a second, think about the people they're in contact with. Remember that these are people that you want to keep gaming with. You don't want them to be sick. The worst thing that could happen is you do have a gaming session, and then 10 days later, now that person can't come to the next session because they're sick. And you wonder, okay, am I sick? Mm-hmm. Who else is sick? Who else have I got infected? And that's where we need to kind of just take a pause. And the good news is there are some great resources out there, and there are some wonderful systems out there. And some wonderful people who are generating content, and we want to start talking about that. Let's step away from what the problem is, whether this is a snowstorm that's keeping you in, or this quarantine,
or a global pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Who knows what could be keeping you in? But as long as you've got the internet, we've got some solutions to help you.
Yeah, that shouldn't necessarily, just because you can't meet face to face does not mean you have to stop gaming.
Right. I mean, some people go away to college. Some people have to suddenly start traveling for work, and that shouldn't stop them, and shouldn't stop you as a storyteller from getting your story out there and enjoying it.
Sometimes there's a snowstorm 3 times in a row when you're trying to plan your D&D session.
Oh my God.
Knox knows what I'm talking about.
We all know about those moments.
Oh my God. So, all right, I think the first obvious thing we need to bring up, the proverbial elephant in the room, though it is a great elephant, is Discord. Discord is just a wonderful wonderful program. Obviously we use that to tend our our group discussions and stuff like that. We pull a lot of our show questions and stuff like that from Discord. But as far as a gaming tool goes, I think it's phenomenal.
I think it can be. You have the ability to share a screen.
Yeah.
You have a nice chat client.
Yep.
The voice quality is good. They just recently upped it from 10 to 50.
Yeah.
For those people who have giant gaming groups who may be listening to our show. But you can share content. Mm-hmm. You can share linkage. You can have multiple channels. So you could have something that's just for the game and another one for chat and another one for combat. You can make random rolls on it. There's roll systems built into it.
Oh, are there?
Yeah.
God, I didn't realize that. We were rolling. I feel weird when I don't roll physical dice, so I think
I agree. But sometimes you need to have a group roll, or you need to have some kind of a thing like that. And I think that's a fine idea. I think that's
great.
Perfectly well. So I think that Discord is a great way to do it. It's got some drawbacks.
Look what?
First things that I would say is that being that Discord is a open mic with ducking system. Sometimes if you've got multiple players who are in the same house, for instance, the microphone can do weird cut in and cut out.
That's true. That's true.
You also get and I'm going to say this, and this covers pretty much every remote situation. Background. Things that come on in the background.
Yeah.
Noises that you're not hearing because you're not listening to yourself, that no one may tell you is going on. And I think we're going to I'm going to set that also to the end of the conversation of like good etiquette. We'll get to that.
Using push to talk.
We'll get to good etiquette.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing is that not everybody has a camera to be able to set up good views of what they have. So, and then you can't move your own mini, and kind of directing those things. So, but I think that's kind of a general thing when you deal with a situation where it's one person presenting and everybody else just watching.
Yeah. I mean, we had some good luck with it with Sean's game. The aforementioned snowstorm.
Yep.
We all decided that we were. I think I mentioned this on a previous episode too.
Yeah, you did. You definitely did.
We got hit with a snowstorm. It was supposed to be me and one of our show contributors, Knox in the Box, and a couple other people. And kind of last minute, they decided the snowfall was too much. They weren't going to be able to make it out to our place. And but then we decided, maybe we can leverage some technology in there. So we got them on voice and on what is it? Kind of like watching Sean's, because what Sean did was Sean live streamed his desktop,
right,
and then pulled up a virtual tabletop program. I think he was using Fantasy Grounds.
Okay, yep.
And then basically live streamed his Fantasy Grounds so that we all had essentially as like a Twitch stream of just his desktop. So he was able to show us maps, move minis around, and whatnot with that. And we all had our own dice. We had enough trust in the group that we could just roll our dice and declare our results, so we didn't need them, posted to a chat or anything like that.
Just to be clear, Overwatch is reserving something. We've got a whole app being built in the chat log here about robotuprising.com. Oh. So that has been trademarked by Overwatch. We are not allowed to have that.
Okay, fair enough. So what he's talking about, for those of you who aren't in the live chat right now, is that random dice rollers aren't random.
No,
and it's not something I fully understand, but I trust the programmers in my group.
We'll just say yes. There's a long discussion there, but yeah. But they're not.
But yeah, random numbers chosen by computers are not actually random numbers, and apparently what you need is a robot arm that shakes a dice cup and rolls it for you.
Correct, and then you stare at those numbers
to truly get a random number out of a machine.
Right.
And so robotuprising.com is going to be his website for
where you queue up your roll
on this robot arm.
Yeah, actually that'd be pretty cool to create like a Rube Goldberg kind of machine that rolls the dice and then drops them and then reloads the system.
This is going to be like a space age version of Kit and Cam.
No, that's pretty much what it is. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Right, no, I like this. Good.
I would watch that for hours.
I think Overwatch is going to make $1 billion. It'd be amazing.
But no, like I said, I think it worked really well. I mean, we had everybody on voice.
Yeah.
We had everybody, looking at the same screen because our storyteller was doing that. He was even, because it was basically streaming from his computer, he was able to put on some background music for us as well.
Yeah.
And that came to all of us on our headphones through his live stream.
Yep.
Because we were watching that. So, I mean, look, in a pinch, in the middle of a snowstorm, I think it came together really well.
Yeah, I used Skype to be an alternative to this with when I did 7th Sea stuff. And I think it works really well because there isn't minis really involved. And it was all just chatter. But we could actually see each other's faces as well. And I think that added to some of the expressionism, because it is a very social game. It is. There's you want to look at someone while you're role playing with them,
right.
And since character to character things are important, that was one of the things that could come up. But it also gave us the option, which I thought was kind of neat. You could bring up a portrait, and you're talking to the portrait. And
so
I thought that
little
was
character sketch.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of a neat way of doing it. You could also easily share out images, so you'd have looks, and so we were sharing a lot of movie content because a lot of time movie and art content. So somebody just had a bunch of art that they had of a certain character, like this is what my character looks like. You know, I'm wearing something like this. You know, and that was kind of neat to be able to do stuff like that. So I think there are advantages to something like Skype for those types of games where they are more social, or where you have a lot more social things going on, where you want to incorporate visuals and get these like, you know, deeper scenes where you're like, oh, is that what it looks like here? Is that what's really going on here? But I think having the music available is a huge thing, so long as it doesn't overpower the conversation to be able to hear things.
Yep.
You know, that's a huge thing.
Just a little feedback of like, hey, it's coming in a little hot. Can you knock it down a notch? You know?
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of tweaking that went on, but I think it worked really well.
Yep.
And of course, he was already sitting at his computer because that's where we're running all this off of anyways. So he had full control on dual monitors to just go to town with it.
One of the things that I think both of these add to, I also want to say, like, there are other systems, like Fantasy Grounds does its own stuff. You can actually run full Fantasy Grounds, which is great. It's its own piece. Roll20 has done a great job of kind of pulling stuff together for gaming. I haven't fully used it, but I've started playing around with it and saw how easy it was to freaking create a campaign.
I played a little bit of Roll20.
You know, do you feel that it's got enough tool set to be able to meet the kind of technical qualities of that we've spoken with Discord and Skype?
I mean, it definitely surpasses Discord and Skype.
Oh, it does.
In its capability to run a tabletop game.
Okay.
Because it's streamlined for that. You know.
Right.
Now I don't know. I know it has, like, you know, chat and video and voice and stuff like that built into it, but we didn't actually use any of that stuff. I do know that it has those capabilities. We just use Discord and then just, you know, watch the live tabletop in Roll20.
Fair enough.
But the great thing that I really liked about Roll20, especially for like running 5th edition D&D, is that and 5th Ed, by the way, is not the only game that Roll20 has. Roll20
right, you were
has
saying that. Yeah.
dozens of games that it has built-in character sheets for and stuff like that are all programmed into it. So you can have live character sheets almost I wouldn't say it's as good as something like D&D Beyond.
Right.
But it's definitely along that level of functionality where you've got all your stats with you. The thing that I really did like about it, though, is like you've got your character sheet pulled up in a side window, right? And your DM asks you for, say, a perception check. You just click on perception and it rolls it for you. And it throws that right in the chat window. And it will say, you know, Sarah rolls perception, and it will actually do both D20 just in case you have advantage or disadvantage, and you can take...
Oh, nice. That's simple.
Obviously, if you're not rolling it, if it's a straight roll, you just take whatever the first number is. If it's at disadvantage, you take the lowest of the two. If it's advantage, you take the highest of the two.
Right.
But it always gives you the two results.
Nice.
And it's the same thing for damage, too. So you can roll to hit, and it will also give you the damage value of that hit automatically. So it's like you rolled an 18 to hit for 6 damage.
Gotcha.
You know,
so it's combat system based as far as like digital gaming combat kind of rolls, where it pre-does all the calculations, and then it's up to the DM whether or not they made contact. But he's already got all the stats and information.
Yeah, exactly. He knows at that point that if an 18 hits, it did 6 damage,
right? And
if it didn't, he just ignores it. You know.
Yep. Exactly. Interesting. Okay.
And then of course they've got the live tabletop going on as well. So you've got a grid system. They've got a pretty good marker system. The markers themselves you can attach stats to, like hit points or magic points, or you know whatever else you can think of in there. You can even add like little life bars on things, so you can kind of see how wounded things are. And it will even do little things like lighting. I'm not familiar with it because I was not the storyteller in this particular campaign,
right?
As far as how it actually functions like that, but you can do things like where if you open up a door, you know, the light will spill out from that room into the hallway with, you know, crude sort of geometry to it. Okay. You can have attached light sources to tokens, so characters can be holding torches and whatnot, and only reveal the areas of the map that fall within that light. It's pretty neat, actually.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, and Fog of War as well. So, you know, you can only reveal the rooms that you were able to see.
Right.
So, I liked it. I did think that it had a pretty significant learning curve to it. But, because I did poke around with it a little bit myself. But I think if you do take the time to get into it and kind of learn it, there's some good tutorials set up on the site to teach you how to do it. I think it's really worth the time as a virtual tabletop and as a gathering space. I mean, especially too when getting together in person is not an option like right now.
Right.
Then I mean, any port in a storm, man.
True.
You could do a lot worse than Roll20.
Okay,
You could
fair
do
enough.
a lot worse than Roll20.
So, knowing that stuff, I'm going to say a couple of pieces of etiquette, and I think this goes on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
From a storyteller perspective, don't just drop this on your players at the last minute. Don't make it like, oh, we're not going to get together. It's Friday night. You say, okay, we're canceling for tomorrow and doing it remote. Everybody go to this site and download Discord and get yourself an ID and do all that.
Yeah.
Do not do that.
Yeah, to be clear, when we did our Discord session, it took like 2 hours to set everybody up and get things working.
So and you have to be patient as a storyteller that things technically may not work that way. Mm-hmm. And you may just have to be like, you may have to set up that time in your head that says, if after an hour of frustration, it's not worth it, don't push that level of technology. Mm-hmm. If you can get everybody on Discord, but for whatever reason you can't get your screen to share, or you can't get that music going that you wanted to, or whatever, gut your losses, take what you can get, and just go with what you got. 2, don't make assumptions. And I think this goes for saying that your players may not all have computers. Some of them may have tablets only and phones. Mm-hmm. They may only use computers at work. They may only have an Xbox at home or whatever for their gaming, which means they may not have headsets. They may not have microphones. They might just be sitting there with their phone in their hand, trying to listen to you and look at a tiny little screen.
Yeah.
So understand that there are going to be technological differences between you and your players when you start moving into this realm. On a happenstance. People who do this on a regular basis, who go online to do their remote gaming, probably know what they're getting into to a certain level. But your players who you've played with via pen and book may not. They just may not have those things for them. So you have to be a little bit thinking. So if you can give them a little bit of time ahead of time, they might be able to handle it. I mean, it's amazing what Amazon can deliver in 2 days.
I mean, you may even want to do almost like a technology session 0, I guess.
Yeah,
like a dry run of your technology. Like
I think that's a
night or 2 before.
Yeah, with some of your players, and if there's a player who's having a problem, give them a little bit of space. Like let them. They're gonna struggle. That's okay. Try and work with them as best you can. Mm-hmm. On the player's side, I'm going to flat out say this. It drives me nuts that people don't realize their microphone picks up as much as it does. Do yourself a favor before, and everyone in your group a favor, before you get into the session, see if there's a way to test your microphone. Mm-hmm. Just without even you talking, just hit that test button and listen on your headphones. Or record something. Like get yourself something like, Audacity or the Microsoft Recorder, or if you're using an Apple, I'm sure there's some kind of Apple mic thing. Mm-hmm. And just record for like 30 seconds of you just talking. Then play it back and listen and see how many background sounds you hear. You might be amazed that your fish tank and your dog and the kid who lives next door who's through the wall is paper thin is all getting picked up by your microphone. And you might need to do a little of adjustment. Maybe put a sock over it. I don't know. Take a look at some options. Everybody's mics are a little bit different. Mm-hmm. Or just use push to talk, where you're turning on and off your microphone while you're working.
Push to talk is my suggestion.
Yeah.
And my only addition to this whole "you'd be surprised what your mic can pick up" thing is, because this is a personal, just giant pet peeve of mine, to the point of if you know the definition of the word misophonia, is something I deal with. Mm-hmm. I swear to God, if you eat on mic, like it literally triggers my fight or flight response.
Yep.
And I'm not joking. That's not hyperbole. Like it makes me want it. Like triggers something in me. The sound of someone crunching in my ear makes me want to just reach out and strangle the source of it and make it stop, or just utterly take my headphones off and walk away. Because
no, I get it. I get it. And that goes for a lot of things with people.
Knox in the Box would like to know if you can stir mac and cheese.
No,
Caitlin, we got opinions on this one
about stirring mac and cheese.
I actually used to do that to prank people on this old show of mine a lot, so I can't even say anything.
So was it? Now hold on. There was something that happened. So was it the show where it was like, is this sex or is it stirring mac and cheese?
Well, actually, we had a different segment that involved is it sex or donuts, but that's besides the point. No, so what I would do is I found this like
This is the
10-minute
PG-13
long
Yeah.
ASMR video.
Oh, wow.
Like 10 minutes of this girl just stirring mac and cheese. So I'd start it really low and I'd just slowly bump up the levels till finally people start looking and be like, Kate!
That's some serious troll in there, Kate.
That's amazing.
So just be mindful of the sounds that you're making are probably louder than you think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even when I'm in the studio, a lot of times Vicky will remind me, my wife will say, hey, I was listening to the show and you need to breathe away from the mic, Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And I get it. I totally get it. I may find my Darth Vader snoring, thing going on over here to be just me. But there's apparently a sound that gets carried across pretty heavily at times.
Sometimes. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's a billion things I do too that just
Yeah. But we don't notice it.
But we don't notice it because it's us. And
correct.
You don't hear yourself the same way that everybody else hears you. That's, I think, the important part is. And that's why it's important to record yourself and just play yourself back because you're not going to notice it because you do it all the time and you're used to it.
Right. And Discord does have a functionality to let you do cutting where it picks up your voice, the automated system. Those will sometimes pick up other sounds like the clicks of a keyboard if you are a heavy typer and your keyboard is a clicky keyboard.
Oh,
I love clicky keyboards.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. So, just be mindful. That's all we're asking on that side. Especially when we do it. But content.
Mm-hmm.
We have been blessed with content recently.
We really have.
Critical Role and D&D Beyond, or Critical Role and Roll20 got together with D&D to release a free module of their stuff, which probably couldn't have come out at a better time.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
well, the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount just came out, and that's Critical Role's proprietary setting.
Sorry, keep going.
Okay.
Please keep going.
So you're reading the live chat?
I'm just reading the live chat. Just keep going. It's fine.
The Explorer's Guide to Wildmount just came out, which is Critical Role's proprietary Teldore, Exandria setting. Teldore is a continent.
Correct.
Exandria is the world.
Yes.
And that's part of the official D&D universe,
Which is great.
I think it's absolutely phenomenal. It's some great world building there too. But of course, it kind of as a promo piece for that, they released a free adventure that you can go and download, which I think is a great.
You don't even have to download it with Roll20. You can literally click a link.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're sitting in Roll20, you click one button and it starts and builds the whole adventure.
Oh my god,
it is that easy.
That's phenomenal.
I may or may not have created a link so people could join and add characters just to see what it looked like.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I may throw that in the chat here.
Okay.
I may not. We'll see. We'll see.
Might have to put that out on the.
I'll put it in the live chat for our patrons.
We could throw it up on Twitter for people too.
I don't know if I'm going to go that far.
Okay,
that might throw a lot of people in there, but
okay.
But I'll throw it in there in a second here for you guys. But also talk about the White Wolf stuff that just came out.
Oh yeah. So Onyx Path Publishing has I think I'm not wrong on this. Onyx Path Publishing has picked up the publishing licenses for all the old White Wolf stuff, the World of Darkness, and so. In light of the quarantine situations that a lot of people are running into, they are like, "Hey, if you're going to be home, nothing better to do than game." So here is for free on Drive-Thru RPG.
Yes,
you can get like Vampire the Masquerade. You can get Werewolf the Apocalypse.
Mage the Ascension.
Yep,
and it was Dark Ages actually as well that was in there. And I personally love Dark Ages.
Oh yeah, Dark Ages is always your jam.
I mean, it's ruined as a system. Like, don't try and you can rule stack yourself into oblivion. Seriously, it's pretty amazing, but it's beautiful. Like, there's a lot of great content in there. It's a wonderful world to run around in, and seeing the cover just brought it right back to me instantaneously. Seeing that they had that out there, so
you nostalgized so hard.
I did. I really, really did, and it was funny because one of my friends actually our mutual friend printed those books. Like, it was his printing house that printed those. So
nice.
he had stacks still at his house.
Oh, geez.
Of prints. Mm-hmm. So I was able to gift my wife, who I used to play it with, as a gift. He was able to bring one home and say, "Here's an original Dark Ages clean copy."
Oh.
So so she has a nice, crisp, clean copy of the book.
That's sweet.
It's kind of a neat thing when you, after years and years of playing games and like writing in the margins and scrawling your name in crayon and stuff, to finally find like an original copy of something and be like, oh my God, I finally can have it all back again.
It doesn't have Mountain Dew spilled on it.
Exactly.
At some point. Yeah.
So.
But yeah, you can get those at drivethroughrpg.com. DriveThruRPG, for those of you who don't know, is a really great online resource. It's a repository for role-playing games.
Yes.
And you can get the digital versions of a lot of these books. Just download them in PDF file. And I think they also have printing services too, where you can get it printed out, especially which is great if it's an out-of-print book.
Very much so. Or a non-print book, because there's a lot that are going straight to digital.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just want a paper copy of it, which is great.
There's for especially rare books, like you've all heard me talk about Adventure Tales of the Aeon Society. Before I found miraculously my my hardcover version, or my hard copy version of that. I was actually going off of a PDF version that I'd gotten from DriveThruRPG because it was the only place I knew if I can get it.
Yeah,
I mean, it was out of print before it hit the shelves.
Right. And the 7th Sea stuff that I have, a lot of people want the first edition books. Nobody can find them. DriveThruRPG has all of them.
Yep.
And they're inexpensive. There's a lot of adventures that are up there. The guy that myself and Draven have been using for the print on tiles sheets, all of his stuff is up there, and it's pay what you want.
Good.
So it's I paid him $1 each one of the PDF books, so I get $8 for it. But I mean, that gives them a little bit of money, but even he says you can download them for free.
I want to say that WRNM, Warrior Rogan Mage, it was also up there.
I do believe so.
I know that's a free system, so I mean it'll be like
$0. You pay what you want.
Would you like to purchase this for nothing?
Exactly.
Yes,
yeah. And there's a lot of times you will find really good deals that people do with DriveThruRPG. So I highly recommend people go and surf it, take a look at it. You may run into systems that you haven't ever heard of before, or something that you're unfamiliar with. So it's a nice repository to go look for things and find what the real prices are. I mean, especially if you're out at a gaming convention, and you're digging through some huckster's book set, and you pull out an original copy of Palladium Rifts, and you're like, ooh, well, how much? And he's like $70, and you look at the book, and the actual book's $39.95. You're like, $70. Then you go on DriveThruRPG, and you can get it for
like
5,
15,
or less,
10, something like that, right?
And that's the kind of stuff that that you might need copies of, especially if you find a storyteller who wants to run that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and that's a great way too of getting through the whole problem of the storyteller has the books, but none of the players do.
Exactly. You
throw $15 is really easy to throw at a game.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially if it's a situation where you guys are playing remote and you just need a copy of something.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a bad way to go.
And I would say their PDFs are pretty high quality too. A lot of them are like indexed and searchable, and it's all scanned to text, so you can actually like search and copy the text and stuff like that. So
it gives you some ideas, some things you can go after. I know we've got some questions that people threw together. I think we should go there. We actually have a new listener with questions, right off the bat between Wednesday and now.
I love it.
So,
we live in interesting times, and sometimes that isn't always bad. So.
Exactly, and I think this is a perfect question for this. Arcane Asylum, thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining the Discord. We're glad to have you and the rest of your crew that you choose to bring. Asks, in the Theater of the Mind version of combat with no battle map or miniatures, what is the best ways to manage the process and keep straight everyone's actions without losing the PC's strategic actions?
Oof. I'm going to be dead honest. This is why I love miniatures and terrain so much.
I agree. Because
I think it takes all that ambiguity out of things. But for me, I think really you want to focus a lot on make sure that everybody has an avid description of what's going on.
Yep.
If it matters. Now, keeping in mind that this doesn't always matter for combat.
No.
Because sometimes your combat, now we talked about it a lot, and this is more your style than mine. My style is a lot more literal, a lot more strategic. Your style is a lot more cinematic.
Very much so.
So in a cinematic combat, does it really matter if the guy's 10 feet away or 15 feet away?
Not in the least bit.
Not in the least bit.
Nope.
Because I can still reach out and smack him in a cinematic movement.
Now, I might explain that this guy is up on a dais, or maybe he's on a balcony that's 3 stories up, and all of his henchmen are down below. And somebody might say, is there ivy up there, or a way that I can parkour my way up the building? I'm like, yeah, there is.
No, there is.
Let's
make an acrobatics check.
Let's do this thing. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that I do in cinema when I'm doing my storytelling that way, is that I try to express how it is happening cinematically and thematically versus worrying about the positioning, because the stories that I tell often that doesn't matter. I want the PCs to keep going.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about the grind of the grunts coming in and them having to calculate spells and deal with the minutia of details. If I want something to be intense, I will make it intense. If I need it to be to feel grand, I will make it grand. I won't let the numbers play that game.
Yeah.
Okay. I will watch for the players' reactions and tell the story through that kind of theming. So I think for me, it is very much about not worrying about the minutia. I might make a couple of quick notes, and then I'll just be like, all right, how do you do it? Like, you just waylaid into this guy and laid him out. How's it going? You've done that a lot of times at the end, ending a combat with something like, oh, this person just died. Okay, how do you do it?
Yeah.
Like, how do you do the death blow? Because it doesn't matter what they're doing. Sure. They're using a weapon, whatever.
Yeah.
Let the action play itself out.
It's all just as in description.
Yeah.
You know? And when it comes to the numbers almost don't matter. You know?
And I think at that point, once you start removing the minutia, your players will play differently. I mean, if it's about the minutia and it's about the miniatures, then do it that way.
You know, I think a lot of that comes down to your gaming group as well.
Very much
your
so.
group. I mean, if you're running a cinematic game, then, you know, obviously you know what to expect.
Yep.
Sitting down at the table with Rob, I know what to expect out of his storytelling, you know. But you know, I think if you shift gears, if you go from a number crunchy game, and then all of a sudden you're trying to describe things in vague cinematic sweeping details, then you're going to give your players a little bit of whiplash.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a little bit of recoil there for you.
And I've even done it a little bit with my D&D game, where I'm kind of being a little more cinematic but still using minis. And I do that so that my players get to get a visual of their movements around a space.
Sure.
But I don't have to use it all the time, and I don't. I try not to. Right now, my D&D game, I'm doing it more often just so I can get more comfortable with D&D as a whole, like the 5th edition as a whole, and the tactics and things involved in it. But probably I'm going to be moving away from the tactical edge of it and kind of go with more of a cinematic edge to it. But I think with the current story, I'll keep it.
Now that I got the minis painted for it? No.
I'm definitely for this game currently going to be still dealing with a lot of numbers.
Okay.
Because why not? You guys are high level, and you guys deserve to be crunching those numbers and enjoying yourselves.
Yeah, man. I'm a 9th level wizard. I need some templates.
Yeah, you do. All right, pick another one.
All right. So Technolich, let's just go right straight on the line here.
Sure.
In remote gaming, do you prefer a video feed of the battle board or a virtual desktop with tokens? I mean, I like in my experience, what we're comparing here is the storyteller broadcasting his battle board on Discord, or playing with something live like Roll20. That's what I'm drawing from your question here.
Seems like it.
For me, I think the Roll20, the live battle board, was a little more fun for me. Roll20 will offer you things like the ability to kind of draw on the maps and like ping the map in certain areas and stuff like that. So if you're trying to talk to the storyteller and say, hey, I want to go like over here, or what's along this wall here, you can actually use some of the drawing tools to like just say, hey, look at this thing here on the map. And I think that's something you're not going to get, I should say, on Discord with just the storyteller broadcasting their own thing. because it depends on everything coming from the storyteller at that point. And it can get a little bit muddled,
Yeah.
Like, what's over in the corner? This corner? No, that corner. No, the other corner. The far corner. My right, not your right, you know?
And I think if you're dealing with a crunchy game, having everybody looking at a common top-down board with tokens, like a digital scape, is going to give you a lot more fluidity of that. But I think in something like a cinematic, like we were just talking about, where your position doesn't matter nearly as much.
Yeah.
I think you could get away with pretty much anything at that point.
You really could.
I mean, you could set up everybody on a video feed with minis and just kind of give it if you've got really good pieces, like maybe you are like yourself. You've got that, like imagine if you had that whole gorge set up and then the snowstorm, nobody showed up.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you love to do a little camera sitting on the side of it with everybody on the bridge?
Oh, I would have, yeah.
And that would have made a change. Now, would we have moved differently? Would you have adjusted things so we could see things better? Maybe it wouldn't have made as much of a difference because we really didn't do a lot.
Yeah.
Like our movements weren't all that important other than our relative positions on the bridge because it didn't end up in combat. It was a social encounter.
But if it had ended up in combat, then, it would have turned out a lot different.
Yep. So,
but the only thing that the other thing too is that it puts all of the onus of updating the map then on the storyteller as well. So the storyteller is spending half their time telling the story and half the time dinking around with a map and a tabletop and tokens.
It's got to be easy. It's got to feel fluid.
Yeah. So just even seeding the ability to move your own tokens to the players is just a big relief because they can move where they want to go instead of having to try to describe it to you and then you figure out where that is and like no, one square to the right,
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you need to be controlling things and moving them.
Oh, true.
So that things don't get out of hand. But, passing that up does give you that availability.
Yeah.
But again, you got to know who you're playing with.
You do. I don't know that I would do that with randos off of Roll20 that I just invited to the game from that I've never met before, but with my regular gaming group, absolutely. Absolutely I would do that. So, all right. You want to move on to the next question here?
Yeah. Knox asks, if we consider giving bad news via phone, email, or text inappropriate, how do we treat a potential emotional player character death during a remote game session? Ooh.
Oof. Well,
let's start with the basics. Do you break up with one of your players' characters over the internet? I think you can. I think you can do anything like that, but anytime you have a character death, an honest-to-goodness death, I think it's a major thing. And I think you need to treat that with that same reserve.
Yeah, I think... I mean, I'm kind of two minds on it. On one hand, I definitely understand where the spirit from where this question's coming from. And it is an emotional thing, and the human contact, the sensitivity of that, I think is an important thing. We grow attached to these characters. They are literally from our own hearts and minds that we create them, and especially if they're a long running character, we've spent hours, wearing that mask, living in that skin, experiencing that world,
the time you've invested.
Exactly. And so if that character does die, then that can be an emotional blow. There can be some legitimate trauma that happens there.
Yeah.
But on the other hand though, as someone who has broken up with someone over text simply because text was there.
Right.
And it needed to happen.
Correct.
I'm not going to drive 40 minutes to tell you I don't want to see you anymore. When you do the thing that betrays me, I'm just going to tell you over the text message, okay, that was the straw that broke the camel's back,
If you've got to take care of something, you've got to divorce yourself from a player in a game. You've got to do what you have to do as a storyteller as long as you're open and you communicate about it.
Yeah. Exactly. I think you just handle it, and if you need some cooldown time at the end of the game to talk through feelings, so that people aren't just left without closure, I suppose, left without with unresolved feelings at the end of the game that they're stewing on for a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it takes for you to guys get back to the table again. if there's an emotional moment, have your breakdown at the end of the game, talk about it and try to work through at least some of those emotions and keep that channel open for as long as you need to. And I think that's the way to do it.
I think it's good.
Sean is in the live chat. He says, player death should be like Dark Souls. So what, frequent and brutal? and sometimes utter BS.
True. Very true. Very true.
Like, okay, the ogre swings his club. He hits everyone on that side of the room.
True. All right. Sam's got a question here, but I want to we've got a couple still going through.
Sure.
Do you want to follow this one up? Because it kind of is a good remote follow-up question.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so Samantha would like to ask, how do you make sure everyone plays an equal part in an all-remote game? Well, Rob, how do you?
Talking sticks work well.
Okay.
Strangely. In the Skype games that I've played, it was very it was easier to have everybody just kind of pause and then have the storyteller direct to each player. And I think by the storyteller talking to the character instead of using the player's name, it changed the focus. And it showed also who was actually listening and in focus.
I think that's good advice just for even table games too.
It is. Table games can be a little challenging, but I think specifically for remote games, one of the saddest things that happens sometimes with remote games that make it go bad is that people don't devote the same energy and effort of focus
because they're not there.
Correct.
Therefore, they're not all there.
Right. So if you're to go back to our previous stuff as an etiquette thing, if you're going to play remote, focus. Treat it like you're at someone's home.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you're in the quiet area. Make sure you're focused on the game. Make sure you're not working on work or playing another game.
Alt-tabbed on YouTube.
Exactly. Don't do any of that. Focus on the story for the time. And you may find that it gets a lot more done than even going to that person's house.
Yeah.
It's a different thing. So I would say for keeping focus, do something along the lines of directed conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So that you're talking as a storyteller to each of the players and making sure that they're all part of it. The other thing that I found worked really well, and this was something that I watched someone do, was as a storyteller, they wrote down on a sheet of paper in front of them each one of the players' characters' names.
Mm-hmm.
And then as they were going through the game, every time they was working with a player, they would put a dot next to them.
Oh, okay. So they could keep track of how many times they interacted with each player.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And that way, if they saw low dots on somebody, they could move the story in that direction or move the focus. And it's just a
really
small thing you can do. And you're not trying to get everyone equal, but it's very quick to see, even if you're just keeping every once in a while, how much of a difference that is.
You at least see a trend then.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
So, yeah. And a follow-up to hers, which is actually here in the live chat, was any tips on how to play someone else's character if they've given you permission? So if they're not able to make it, and you're playing someone else's character, we've done it.
Yeah, we've done it.
We've done it a few times. I think it's a soft edge to be careful of because a lot of times you're not playing the theme of that character. You're not playing who they are. You're playing their class.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key. Like, if it's a fighter and you're in combat, they're one of the. Otherwise, I would keep that person out of contact with things. Mm-hmm. They're there, but they're preoccupied with something.
Yeah, maybe they're just quiet that day. I personally, that's the few times I've had to take someone else's character, that I tend to just try to keep them low key, keep their opinions pretty straightforward. Don't get them broiled into anything too terribly much. If you are given direct permission by another player and you do want to, make sure that you have their motivations and stuff like that down, I would ask them, just some direct questions like, what does this character want? Name another maybe movie character or book character that I would know that your character is like in personality or is like in motivations. So I may not know what, Turok the orc wants
Right.
to do. But I may sure as hell know what, just to throw a name out there, what Indiana Jones might do. Obviously not a great example, is if you know the characters, but I can. It's a lot easier for me to think of a character I'm familiar with and
Right.
say, well, Turok is like that character.
Yeah. Another thing is that I would say a lot of times it should be the storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're going to keep that person alive. They're going to direct things. They also might know how that class is run better. But they've also know the background. They know things that the other players might not know.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes down to dice, though, sure, if someone's there is going to hold the character sheet and roll the dice, let them roll the dice.
Yeah.
To keep that random, to keep it away from the storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good way to get around it.
Read your class abilities.
Yeah.
Always read your class abilities. You can find out some characters do some amazing things. I had a lot of fun actually when I was playing Turok.
Yeah, you seem to.
Like a battle master warrior, and I didn't get to play that for very often. But then, oh man, trip attack and multiple attacks and second winds all go together so well. You just really wail on some people with that. All right, so moving on. Overwatch. Overwatch asks, in the event that you have to put a campaign on a prolonged hiatus for things like scheduling conflicts, new jobs, or global pandemics, what are some tips for keeping campaign interest alive during the downtime or revitalizing it once you're back at the table?
Oh, son of a bitch.
I think this is a great question, actually.
Yeah, I did this. So I'm not saying what I did was the right thing to do, but I am saying one of the things that I did. So my game was on a 10-year hiatus. And I would say through most of those 10 years, there was a lot of conversation about the game.
There was.
And it wasn't until this last year that I started getting myself back together saying, I do want to do this. And for me, it was more dropping the ideas with each of the players. Like, would this be something to be interested in? Are you guys still interested? And there was still a lot of interest in it.
Mm-hmm.
There was still. And so I slowly started working myself together and putting together things. Like, I think the Discord channel was a good place for me to start pulling together ideas and getting people interested. I think early emails to people individually to ask them about their characters and make sure they were still interested in keeping that character going in that direction. I think that was the big thing. Is just again, we talk about communication all the time, and I think that's the key. Is communication. Is that if you're really interested in something, and you've been your game has been keeping interest with your players, they'll want to know about that. They'll want to move that direction. Mm-hmm. They'll want to join you again at that table, to drive back into it.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is open the door and be there for them, and they'll come running.
Mm-hmm.
So things do change. Things happen all the time.
Sure.
Medical stuff happens. Weather stuff happens. The best thing you can do is just keep in communication.
Yeah. I think that's sort of great things. What I tend to do, we only play once a month,
right,
for my personal game. So unfortunately, I don't have that constant attention of everybody. But what I like to do is drop little lore nuggets and stuff like that into the Discord that we have set aside for my game.
Yep.
And little pictures here and there or whatnot, just to keep people kind of thinking about their characters, thinking about the world that we play in and whatnot. Nothing huge, nothing that requires much more than a quick glance and a chuckle or something like that. But
Indeed.
If you see a meme that reminds you of one of your characters, or a short video that's just like, haha, this is totally Thalian, Sean and I are still chuckling about that video we posted in the Discord. Did you just cast a spell on me?
Yeah, exactly.
We joke about that all the time, but it's just something to keep you engaged with your characters in that month-long gap between there.
Right. And like my game is going to have a time gap in the game, and month between the events. I'm working with you guys to say, okay, we're going to jump scenes.
Sure.
Like, we're going to literally do an episodic thing like from Star Trek where it's like, hey, some shit happened in between here. Let's talk about what that shit is.
Right.
And then we're just going to go on to the next important thing. And so those kind of things for Discord is a great place to do that because you can control who gets to see it and how they get to see it. And you can even have breakout channels that are for each one of your players.
Yeah, you can just have and just have that rolling discussion between game sessions of just, whenever everybody thinks of something, they throw it in the Discord and bam,
Yep.
It's up there. And by the time your game comes around, then you've got this whole battery of information to work with.
Plus, if you use the emotes, you can see who's looked at it.
Yep.
And that's a blessing unto itself right there.
Yeah.
Is just knowing that someone's read what you posted.
Uh-huh.
Because you'll always get those people like, I didn't get the email. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I never got that text message. Those kind of things. Those kind of things.
The ability to tag people directly so that it pushes a notification to them.
How are we looking, Caitlin, since we have no concept of time currently?
Probably about 5 minutes or so.
Five and a half? Wow. All right. We're doing really well.
One thing I did want to kind of circle back around to.
Sure.
I had it here on the show sheet, but I think we skipped it over it because it's literally one line.
Yeah,
it's literally one line. But I know a lot of people. We were talking about minis and terrain and stuff earlier. Because with a lot of the lockdown, quarantine, social distancing stuff that we're doing right now.
Right.
A lot of people staying at home.
Yeah,
it might be a good time to get some hobby done, guys.
Oh, dude, I'm going to post a bunch of stuff up there. That's a great idea. I've got a whole literally saved list on YouTube of stuff that I've been wanting to watch crafters do.
Yeah.
And I just got a bunch of boxes from IKEA and, cardboard sitting around my house. So might be time to build
Arts
some
and crafts,
crap.
Rob.
That's right.
I got to get you the login credentials for the Instagram so you can start posting that up.
I should post a few of those pictures up. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Let the world know. And the other reason I want to bring this up is if any of you out there, our listener base, are hobbying, definitely tweet it at us, tag us on Instagram if that's the thing. I'm still learning Instagram, so I'm sorry.
We're terrible at it.
I'm old and I'm terrible at it.
Throw it in our Discord.
Yeah, throw it on the Discord. We want to see your hobby projects. We would love to see it, and follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram. We're both at st_conclave.
Yep.
On both those platforms, and you can find our Discord link in the show description. You can find it up on Twitter.
Yeah.
And join us there. We've got a whole channel dedicated to basically people's arts and crafts.
Yeah, and we love seeing it. We because it gives us new ideas. It gives the other storytellers great ideas. We love just that connectivity and tool set and getting people more into this community. Because it's more than just storytellers here. We have players here who are becoming storytellers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have players who are just trying to be better players at the tables that they're at.
And everybody brings something interesting to their games too. Everybody brings something new. So some people are really good at, writing things. Some people are really good at painting things. Some people are really good at building little terrain things or little houses or castles or whatever. And I love seeing where everybody has those touch points with the gaming hobby.
Exactly.
Did you see the Mad Elf posting all those pictures of his 40K minis too?
They're fantastic.
He's doing such a great job, and I'm so enthusiastic about that. I'm cheering him on so much. And I'm so glad we gave him that basing stuff too, because his bases are looking so much better.
So much better. Better. It's those little things.
It is.
And it's spreading that love, spreading that energy out to other people.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, I know I've improved with some of my art, and I stink at painting, but I've gotten better at doing some of my basing, some of my highlighting.
You've gotten really good.
Dry brushing, things like that I just didn't know how to do before.
No, you didn't, but now you do.
I know better.
Well, and you're gonna get better. Like we were all newbies sometime. And so even if you're still at that level where you're just kind of slapping, some paint on your mini and whatnot, you're trying. You're producing and you're putting passion and love into your projects. So
exactly,
you may not be winning golden demons and crystal brushes or whatever the major things are out there right now. But
right.
It may not be award winning, but you know what? It's your hobby. It's made with love, and it's enhanced your game in some way to have your painted mini out there on the table.
That's right. That's right.
You know what? Be proud of it, love it, and post us pictures. We'd love to see them.
I will do what I can. I'm terribly shy about it, even though I do this. Go figure.
All right, you wanna wrap this thing up then?
Sure, hit us, Caitlin.
All right, you can, as I mentioned earlier, you can find us online at st_conclave on Twitter, st_conclave on Instagram, And please, by all means, join our Discord, join in the discussion, shoot us some questions. You can find the Discord link on Twitter. It's pinned to our Twitter feed, as well as in the description of any of these episodes of our podcast in your favorite podcast listening software.
You can join us on our live chat like some of our listeners, like Knox and Sam, do each week that we do this, by joining our Patreon. It is a wonderful way to help support our show, as well as to get a little extra flair on our Discord. And then you can ask us live show questions like they do, and make so many extra comments and try and get us to talk about small reptiles with shells on their back. Our intro music is Beyond the Warriors by Guy Frog. You can find that at guyfrogmusic.weebly.com or on Google Music. Our outro is Only Our Footprints in the Sand by Midair Machine. You can find that at soundcloud.com/midairmachine/tracks.
We record every week at Podcast Detroit. You can find them online at podcastdetroit.com, on Twitter at Podcast Detroit. I want to give a big shout out to our engineer, Caitlin, who stirs macaroni and cheese in the background for us. And a big shout out also to our families, Vicky and Sean, for supporting us and loving us through this whole podcast endeavor. We love you. And all of our friends who've sat with us at our tables over the years, and you especially, our listeners. We love you.
We love you.
Good night.
Good night.